Hi everyone. Have you ever thought of what the world of fashion is like? I've always wondered that. And The Devil Wears Prada, which came out in 2006, which stars Meryl Streep, Anne Hathaway, Stanley Tucci, Emily Blunt, and others, document what the world of fashion is like. And for me, what I've noticed is watching the movie, I've learned that the world of fashion is not only competitive, but it can also be gut wrenching, and also at the same time, Andrea, who is played by Anne Hathaway, is a journalist trying to break into the world of fashion, and she struggled a lot, which led to her working for Miranda, which is played by the legendary Meryl Streep. I must say I'm not a big Meryl Streep fan, but I did think this movie kind of was her best her best movie, and I'll tell you why. I feel like she copied basically Anna Wintour, the longtime editor of Vogue magazine, and uh, Meryl Streep's character Miranda was heavily inspired by Anna Wintour, and Andrea Yates is actually someone that is looks up to actually Miranda and wants to break it big in the fashion world. But she is someone that I've learned by watching the movie that she's someone that is ambitious, but also at the same time understood early that throughout the movie, I must say that she was cut out for this job, working as an assistant to Miranda, but also at the same time she was sacrificing many aspects of her social life. And to me, that got me thinking as someone that works a 9 to 5 job, how much are you willing to put on the line just to keep yourself employed, just to please your boss? Andrea is someone that kind of sacrificed her relationship with her boyfriend, sacrificed her relationship with her friends, sacrificed her relationship with the dad throughout the movie, and that got me thinking. You know, 20 years after the movie, I first saw this movie when I was in high school. I was just enamored by fashion at that time. But now, 20 years later, with a lot of maturity in sight, well, supposedly, I've often wondered, is it worth is working for someone that hard worth it? And that is something that I still think about to this day after watching the movie and 20 years later. And there's a new sequel that came out, which I will review at another time. But I feel that the movie kind of was at the cusp of many things. For me, like it's about just how much do you want to give, how much of yourself do you want to sacrifice, basically, to keep your job and to please your boss. But also at the same time, in 2006, there was the internet, and cell phones were it did exist, but not like the smartphones we know today, nor the social media environment that exists today didn't exist back then. So it kind of still operated under the old world in 2006, even though it just feels like so modern. It was 20 years ago after all, and I first saw this in high school. I was in high school at that time, and at that time I was just kind of grossed out by just the world of fashion because it's just so cutthroat and competitive. But now, while I'm someone, I never had a career in fashion, but I am someone that often wonders how much of yourself do you want to give away just because you want to do well in this industry, and that's what Andrea kind of grappled with throughout the movie. Emily Blunt plays Emily, one of Miranda's assistants, and she's someone that's kind of robotic, kind of like stoic. I would say in a negative sense. just had no feelings, but just worked for Miranda no matter what, and just wanted to produce for Miranda no matter what. But Andrea was kind of young and a little bit of a spring chicken and kind of naive to everything. And she didn't want to upset anyone, but also at the same time, she didn't feel fully comfortable kind of sacrificing her relationships with her family and friends, working for Miranda. Because there is a scene where she meets up with her dad, watches a musical, but yet Miranda, and I don't want to give away the movie, had an emergency to deal with, and she had to, and Andrea, who was working as her executive assistant, had to make some emergency calls for her. I don't want to give away too much, but I want you guys to watch it. And I must say, while this is not a classic movie per se, it is a movie that kind of was at the cuffs, like I mentioned, of many things. The internet was around, but it was just at the beginning of social media, just at the beginning of everything that we know today, everything from smartphones to social media to what have you. In those days, newspapers were still big, but they were dwindling. But Anne Hathaway, or Andrea, was actually someone that confided in Stanley Tucci, who plays Nigel in this movie. And Nigel does work for Miranda, but she's someone that she can confide. He Andrea is someone that is comfortable confiding, I must say, with Nigel. And Nigel is someone that tells her how to work with Miranda. And there was times when Andrea broke down in tears, but Nigel was just stoic enough to say, "Look, this is what you got to do: A, B, and C," and that kind of carried throughout the movie. So 20 years ago, I had a different view of the movie. I was just enamored by fashion, but I also hated it. But now I kind of, through the eyes of maturity, like I said, supposed maturity, I feel that I'm looking at this movie through a different lens. And I do wonder if sometimes working for your boss, working for someone, is worth it in the long run, where you sacrifice yourself just to keep yourself employed. And that is something that I was thinking about throughout the movie. And that was essentially how the movie is. Andrea gets a job in New York, working for Miranda, her dream job, especially as a fashion journalist, but also at the same time kind of gives up a lot of things throughout the way. It kind of reminded me of Wall Street, where Charlie Sheen, who plays Bud Fox in the movie, is someone that wanted to make it big on Wall Street, but kind of gave up a lot of things along the way. Kind of had that same feel, although Charlie Sheen in that movie had, wasn't had to go to jail at the end. I give it a little bit of that movie, but Andrea didn't go to jail in this movie. I can say that, but also at the same time, she I she she feels like she's learned a lot of lessons along the way, and that's just where I am, how I feel about this movie, and I will see you guys next time.